Prime Minister is broken. Everything costs more, with 2 million people lined up at food banks because they cannot afford food. This is a record-smashing number. 1 in 10 Torontonians now eat at a food bank every single month.
Today, I notified the Prime Minister that I've ripped up the Supply and Confidence Agreement. Canadians are fighting a battle for the future of the middle class. Justin Trudeau has proven again and again he will always cave to corporate greed. The Liberals have let people down.
The last few months have been downright brutal for the Liberal government. First, the Conservatives shook their foundation with a bold vote of no confidence. And then, the NDP pulled the rug out by withdrawing their support. Is Trudeau running out of options? Let's see what the Conservatives say.
For the second time in 2024, Justin Trudeau has suffered a crushing by-election loss. This time, the Liberals losing in downtown Montreal. It's a seat the Liberals have held for a number of years. It used to be former Justice Minister David Lamette's, but is now the Bloc Québécois. It was a tight three-way race.
This blow has sparked fierce debates, with many Canadians signaling they've had enough of Trudeau's policies and see change as inevitable.
24 Liberal MPs went to his caucus today to tell him that he's not worth the crime, cost, or corruption. They wanted to tell him that he's doubled housing costs, doubled the national debt, sent 2 million people to the food banks, but he wouldn't let them. He silenced half of the dissidents.
And as if things couldn't get worse, 30 of Trudeau's own MPs turned against him, adding fuel to the fire. He's in some serious heat now.
Our caucus people have always been free to speak their mind and have different perspectives. What is interesting, Mr. Speaker, is nobody in the Conservative caucus seems to have spoken out when one of their members got an all-expenses-paid trip to an extreme anti-abortion church in Florida. Nobody spoke out when one of the members on their front bench went and dined with white nationalists, far-right German nationalists, and nobody spoke up and is continuing to speak up.
In response, Trudeau has been unusually tight-lipped lately, struggling to defend himself. Instead, he's mostly resorted to tossing around baseless accusations at the Conservatives. Now, the analysts are predicting that elections are just around the corner. It's going to be a tough road for the Liberals to head into the election, with so many people distancing themselves from Trudeau's policies.
To let the MPs maybe vote on the leadership, but do you think that could be constructive?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have to read the room. There's all sorts of wheels within. Oh, sorry about that. All sorts of wheels within wheels turning right now. So yeah, I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to make my mind a blank and just soak it all in.
What are your constituents saying?
You know what?
The Prime Minister, when you go door to door, what do they say?
Nothing.
So do you want to see the Prime Minister say?
I'm not going to say anything about that until I have my say in there. All right, thanks, guys.
In a recent game-changing move, Liberal MPs aired their concerns during a closed-door caucus meeting.
All of these internal discussions that you're having that have made it out to the public, is this going to hurt?
Look, there's what would you call it, some palace drama going on right now, and that takes us away from the number one job, which is focusing on Canadians and focusing on the important policies.
What do your constituents say when you go door to door? What do they say?
They want the Liberal Party to win. I'm on the doors all the time.
Do they say they want Trudeau?
No, they don't want to. They want us to focus on them.
There's a palpable tension simmering within the Liberal ranks. Once solidly behind the Prime Minister, Liberal MPs are now left uncertain about the way forward.
Ben, il y a quand même M. McDonald. Pas de source. C'est n'importe quoi. C'est n'importe quoi.
Oh, well, I think we need to really hear what's happening inside. And these conversations will happen inside the caucus room in confidence.
What does the Prime Minister need to do? What does the Prime Minister need to do to quell the dissent in his caucus?
That's not for me to answer.
What do you think he should do?
I think we need to have a conversation today. We're having that for the first time. And there will be many different opinions put forth. And we need to listen to each other. I'm listening to my colleagues.
The Liberal MPs kept mum about the caucus discussions, but the panic is telling things aren't right in the Liberal camp. Trudeau is no longer the most popular guy in the room.
24 Liberal MPs went to his caucus today to tell him that he's not worth the crime, cost, or corruption. They wanted to tell him that he's doubled housing costs, doubled the national debt, sent 2 million people to the food banks, but he wouldn't let them. He silenced half of the dissidents.
When the House resumed, Pierre Lievre did not let the caucus and its 24 signatures slide.
Nobody in the Conservative Conservative caucus seems to have spoken out when one of their members got an all-expenses-paid trip to an extreme anti-abortion church in Florida. Nobody spoke out. Well, one of the members on their front bench went and dined with white nationalists, far-right German nationalists, and nobody spoke up and is continuing to speak up when their leader refuses to get a security clearance so he can deal with foreign interference.
The stirring comments didn't sit well with Trudeau, who came out guns blazing, throwing serious allegations around. But does that really help him? Is Trudeau honestly thinking he can mask the anger, low confidence, and public distancing with mere accusations?
I want to congratulate everyone who stepped up in putting their name on a ballot at a time where we know politics is in a challenging moment. I also want to highlight the thousands upon thousands of volunteers who stepped out, lots for our party, but there's more work to do, and we're going to stay focused on doing it. There's all sorts of reflections to take on that, but the big thing is to make sure that Canadians understand that that's the work we're going to continue to do.
It's a tough loss for us, but just because you lose the battle doesn't mean you don't continue with the fight. And I think that the next election is going to be very consequential for Canadians, and so we have to do a better job of demonstrating to Canadians what our vision is, what we stand for, and what it is that we're going to do for them moving forward into the future.
An increasing number of MPs calling for new leadership spells, trouble for the Prime Minister's hopes of another term. Recent losses in traditional Liberal strongholds have cast doubt on the party's ability to stay in power under Trudeau, especially with polls showing that Liberals lagging 19 points behind the Conservatives.
Of course, food prices have risen 36% faster in Canada than they did in the United States during the last 4 years, and that gap grew in line with the carbon tax. Liberal MPs know now, because their constituents keep telling them, that the carbon tax is driving up the cost of food. They wanted to go to caucus today and tell the Prime Minister that Canadians are literally starving, some eating out of dumpsters because of the carbon tax. But he sent out his immigration minister to attack them, saying that they are, quote, garbage. What's garbage is the Prime Minister's record doubling housing costs, driving up food prices, and forcing people to eat out of dumpsters. Our housing is now 25 to 45% more expensive than the Americans, even though they have 8 times the population on a smaller landmass. Why? Bureaucracy blocks home building. It now takes 7 years to get a building permit. This adds enormous costs to each built home.
A growing challenge to Liberal popularity has been Trudeau's failing policies, from immigration issues that have pushed expats toward the Conservatives to skyrocketing housing prices and rising inflation. Other setbacks, like the safe supply programs and carbon taxes, have only added fuel to the fire.
In Ottawa, bought a few boxes of pizza and cases of beer, and as a joke, they redesigned the ArriveCan app from scratch in a weekend. And it didn't cost $54 million.
Our common sense plan is going to bring results-based financing. Realtors are paid for the number of homes they sell. Builders are paid for the number of homes they build. I want the local bureaucracies to be paid for the number of homes they permit. I want them to be incentivized every day in every way to free up land and speed up permits so that our builders can build. We will require cities permit 15% more home building per year as a condition of getting financing from the federal infrastructure programs. They beat the target, they get a bonus. They miss the target, they pay a fine. We'll require every federally funded transit station have high-density apartments all around and even on top, so seniors and students live next to the bus and train. We'll sell off 6,000 federal buildings.
Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre's common sense plan is catching fire, tackling immigration, healthcare, housing, and law enforcement. Canadians may be sensing it's time for a change, and experts are predicting not just an early election, but a Conservative government. So who will the NDP side with, the rival Conservatives or their former friends, the Liberals? Share your thoughts in the comments.